Move on. Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We have 5 principles. And when I open up the meeting, we talk about these 5 principles being the highest principles that are known to man. Those that are numerology buffs, when we know that 5 is the symbol for man. That is what is on our Moorish American standard, our flag. We can say that that star represents man himself and what he desires to be, with those points representing those highest principles. Contrary to popular belief, this star, the way it's designed, goes back all the way to our Canaanite and Moabite heritage. The crescent and the star is a symbol that you will see throughout Moorish American Asiatic culture, Moorish culture. I think they even have it as a Dinka symbol, if I'm not mistaken. The star and the crescent represents family. In the beginning, it used to be the sun, moon, and stars, man, woman, and child. And then it as it evolved, it went to just the star and the crescent, or the crescent and the star, to be specific. The crescent and the star. The crescent representing the mother or the mother's womb, and then the star representing the child and the protection. And it actually represents nation. You know, if we were to draw it out, as I said before, you know, the womb and the child, but it's also representing the children of this nation. Because when we talk about, it represents the nation itself, rather. Because when we talk about nation, we're talking about, linguistically, nation meaning natal or motherly and so on and so forth. So this from the gate establishes what we aim to do as a people. So anybody that exhibits that, and then of course you have different demonstrations. Some will reverse it, some will have it from the top, and some will have it from the bottom. Those different signs have different meanings. But going back to this star specific, that is an ancient symbol. You know, that symbol has been around for ages. And then again, it is representative of us. It's representative of man and the possibilities of man. So with that in mind, when we talk about these 5 principles, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, as I said before, not only are we to think of, we should be thinking about these as divine principles, but these are the principles as well as the potential of man and how he can further develop himself. So again, drawing from the Lieutenant Grand Governor's measure, he said love. Love is our first principle. And he said that Allah is love, right? Is that what you said? In our Moorish Holy Quran, page 3, I want you to go to the first or the second. It should be the second or third page. Allah is love. Love is Allah. He's the creator, cherisher, sustainer. Allah is aught. He cannot be born, or can he not physically, or as they say, he cannot have a mother or a father. He is eternal. He is infinite, and we as finite beings on the carnal realm, you know, we can only begin to comprehend things infinite from our finite minds. But when you read, it says, "Know thyself and thy Father God Allah." All right. So if we know thyself, if we were to go in our Quran questions, and one of the keys reads, "How did our Prophet Noble Drew Ali begin to uplift the Moorish American?" By teaching them to be themselves. Know thyself and thy Father God Allah. I want you to think about that. Because when we're saying that Allah is love, If Allah is love and you're a part of Allah, then what does that make you? That also makes you love made manifest. That also makes you an extension of Allah. See, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, again, the purpose of our Prophet Noble Drew Ali was to redeem our people, was to raise our people up from a status of being property. And the first thing we had to do was to change our mindset. First thing we had to do is we had to recognize the connection with the Most High. And the very first thing that we are grateful for Allah is that act of love, because that act of love is the act of creation. So again, to know thyself and our Father God Allah is to know love. And to know love, you have to love yourself. And again, if you love yourself, you love your brother and your sister. Does that make sense? Truth. What is truth according to the Moorish Holy Quran? Truth is ought. And we have a connection. All right? Because we're talking about Allah. Allah is love. All right? And then we also have truth. Truth is ought. Truth is everything. That's what ought. But what else is ought? There's Allah. The truth. Well, now, what are the principles of truth? According to the doctrine of Moorish Science Temple of America, truth is that thing that will never pass away. It is constant. It is eternal. So no matter how many times you run over this thing or you try to do a certain thing, you're going to always get the same result. It's constant. Allah is constant. He is never inconstant. And again, being that we're a part of Allah, we have that truth. And that truth is that we are not property. We are not chattel property. We are not slaves. We are not descendants of slaves. We are descendants of ancient Moabites. Moab, if you do not know, means of the Father. What Father is we talking about? Or are we talking about? We're talking about the Father God Allah. All right? Truth, again, is that we are human beings. We are man. We are man, woman, so on and so forth. And we have the authority, we have the divine right to establish ourselves, to perpetuate ourselves, our very existence. That is the truth. All right? The falsehood is that we are less than that we are 3/5 human. All right? So for those that are taking notes, where I came from as far as love is page 3 from my Moorish Holy Quran. And then as far as truth, that is chapter 7, Jesus and Lamas, where he's questioning, where Lamas is questioning Jesus on the meaning of wisdom and the meaning, well, actually it's the title of the meaning of truth, if I'm not mistaken, right? The meaning of truth, chapter 7. Yeah, the meaning of truth. Islam. So we have that. And again, the reason I'm doing this is because we want to have a connection. So when we talk about, or when we go out in Tabligh, and when we go out as missionaries and promote this divine and national movement, we want to have a reference point. We don't just want to come off the dome. And we don't want to just take the word of not just the lieutenant, but myself. Because everything that the brother has said and everything that I'm saying is coming from this doctrine. Prophet said to change the people, you have to change the literature. That's why this pamphlet is very important. So it is very important that we study this pamphlet and all the other literature that comes along that's from the Prophet. Islam? Peace. What'd you say about peace? I can't remember that part. What'd you say?
Islam.
You said peace? Okay. Islamism. Islamism. Our religion, the religion of the Moorish American, Islam is. And that actually, of course, can be found. Well, let's do this, because I want to make it clear. Anyone who strives or attempts to be at peace with all of Allah's creations, or if you're uncomfortable with calling Allah the great God, the Most High, what have you, to be in harmony with all of the creations of the Creator, you are a Muslim. You are a Muslim. If you want to be Greco-Roman about it, you're just peaceful. But it says in the Piscean text, it says in the Bible that blessed are the peaceful, so they should inherit the earth. So anybody that strives to be at peace and make peace, you're a Muslim. You're a Muslim. Islamism is just that. It's peace with all of Allah's creation. All right? So again, we have this connection with Allah. Every being, every living being, if you want to be technical, every non-living being is a Muslim. Bees, ants, they're Muslim. They work together. They work in harmony with every other living object. They work in harmony with the ants, work in harmony with the grass, and bees work in harmony with the flowers, and so on and so forth. They work in that cycle. It's that same cycle that's being taught in chapter 1, the creation and the fall of man. So that is important. That is important, that everything that we do for Allah. It even says that in the Moorish Holy Quran. When man looks at man, he's looking at Allah. What man does for man, he does for Allah. And when man harms man, he's harming Allah. So we want to, we as Muslims in the Moorish or Moorish American Muslims in this institution, we strive to be a friend of humanity. And so if we're a friend of humanity, then we're friends of Allah. Islam? Islam. Freedom. What'd you say about freedom, Mom? No, the brother Akil gave a demonstration on freedom. Power to define. Power to define. Now, freedom is very interesting. Is there a difference between freedom and liberty?
Yes.
What's the difference? Freedom comes with responsibility. What does liberty do? Okay, so I want to draw from etymology online, because freedom is a very interesting concept. And then I'm going to follow up with words from the Prophet. All right, free. Freedom can be used as a verb. What is a verb? It's an action word. It's an action word. All right, and freedom can also be used as an adjective. What is an adjective? This a thumbs up. Islam. So, freedom. Freedom comes from free, right? So, as a verb or adjective, initially, they would have you think that it comes from the word from German. That word should be familiar to us. Does anybody know Act 2? Act 2 says, all meetings are to be open and closed promptly, according to the Circle 7 in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. What is our holy day?
Friday.
Friday. Friday comes from what? Comes from freedom. All right? So those who said, may know where I'm going. So that's the German demonstration, but it says beloved. So when the term free comes from Frisia, or Freya. Beloved, not in bondage, dear, beloved, again. But then again, as we go further, it goes from German to Persian, which also means love. So in context, when we're talking about freedom, we're talking about Allah being a creation from Allah and having the will to exist, having the ability to coexist, the ability to do so with not necessarily without restraint, but within order. Does that make sense what I'm saying? No? Keep going. Keep going. So basically, when we're talking about Freya or Priya, it specifically talks about coming from Allah. But then it goes on by saying, because you come from Allah, you are basically Lord of the plane of manifest. Going back to chapter 1. Does that make sense now? All right. So when we're talking about freedom, we're talking about, just like the sister said, working within the order, being at the top of the plane of manifest, and the ability to operate amongst all the other Allah's creation. In the Quran of Mecca, the story of Adam and how he was created, and having all of the archangels bow to Adam. And of course we have this issue with Iblis, for those who don't know, is the first to debase himself from Allah. When we talk about Iblis, for those that don't know, is actually a derivative of Diablo. The Latin word Diablo is to remove, to be outside of. So literally, Iblis debased himself. He's outside of that when we talk about that. And that's where the liberty comes in, because Iblis is like, well, you know, he's made from dark mud and I'm made from smokeless fire. Why should I bow to something that's made of dark mud when I'm made from a higher element? And Allah's answer is because, again, you should see when you're bowing to him, you're bowing to the spirit of me that's in him, that's within man. So again, we're talking about these concepts that are not new. This is something that we have brothers and sisters that don't recognize the Allah, that don't recognize the great God within you or within you, let alone themselves. So the issue is that they don't recognize the source or the importance or the value of the next man or the next woman. Then how is it that we can progress? Because we don't understand the value. We still consider ourselves to be these chairs, or the color of that stand, or the color of this brother's fez, or the color of the garment that he's wearing. We're just black. We're not. We're limited, or we're finite. We're an illusion. But the idea of the Negro is an illusion. So our Prophet Noble Ali come to remove that spell that was cast on us, to take us out of the reality or the concept of European psychology, thinking that we're less than. But and he's returning to us the principle of freedom, the ability the right to do so, the right to define. Why do we have the right to define? Because we are beloved. Why are we beloved? We are beloved because we come from Allah. Do y'all see a pattern here? That's why he's the father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Father is the foster. You know, so when you create something, brothers and sisters, you're fostering it, you're nurturing it, you're caring for it because you want it to be the best representation of you. Islam? Islam. All right. Justice. Now, I want to give big ups, I want to give honors to the Lieutenant Grand Governor. Because Lieutenant Grand Governor is a Moorish American Muslim man. Moors are men, period. So when he gave the demonstration on justice being the reward of Allah, that is a very profound statement. Because when we think of justice, you know, we think of a scimitar. But the behind the scimitar, now, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to backtrack. So I'm going to read something real quick. So freedom is a spiritual freedom. And the idea that it's a spiritual freedom gives us the ability to go forth on the plane of manifest, because we have that spiritual freedom, because we come from Allah. And I'm going to read a passage from Moorish literature where he emphasizes freedom. And it's coming from the Moorish leader's historical message to America. And I'm starting at the paragraph where it says, the Moorish Science Temple of America has received some opposition. Islam? The Moorish Science Temple of America has received opposition and criticism. In the main, the opposition has come from certain Christian ministers. They have expressed themselves as being opposed to our propagation of the Mohammedan religion, possibly because the promotion of the Mohammedan faith among our people in the United States is considered by them in turn as something new. And that is true. Noble Drew Ali returned Islam back to the Asiatic. Don't ever forget that. Because you have cats that will argue and quarrel with you and say, well, Islam was in America before Prophet Noble Drew Ali, but did he bring it to you? You know, that's the thing. Did he take the time to put together a structure that was befitting to the conditions of the Asiatic in America? Who did that outside of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey? There were some religious institutions or organizations out there, but none of them were specifically targeted towards the Asiatic and bringing them and raising them up, raising their status up, raising them from being considered undesirables. That is very important and it's very significant for our prophet. All praises are due to Allah. Islam. So, whatever reasons may be for their oppositions, the legal right to oppose citizens, individuals, and organizations alike for their religious belief does not exist in the United States. The door of religious freedom made by the American Constitution swings open to all, and people may enter through it and worship as they desire. Without religious freedom, no search for truth would be possible. Without religious freedom, no discovery of truth would be useful. Without religious freedom, religious progress would be checked, and we would no longer march forward towards the nobler life which the future holds for the races of men. Without religious freedom, there will be no inspiration to lift our heads and gaze with fearlessness into a vast beyond, seeking a hope eternal. Islam? That's that demonstration on freedom. Now, last certainly not least, we want to talk about justice. As our lieutenant so eloquently said, it is the reward of Allah. Islam, Lieutenant? Islam. All right. I want to read the chapter of justice. Because again, where is it tie in with the most holy Quran when he says that that is the reward for Allah? I want to turn to, I believe it's chapter 31. All right. Chapter 31, holy instructions from the prophet, justice. The peace, there's that word again. The peace of society dependeth on justice. The happiness of individuals on the safe enjoyment of all their possessions. But here it goes. Listen carefully. Keep the desires of thy heart, therefore, within the bounds of moderation. Let the hand of justice lead them aright. Cast not an evil eye on the goods of thy neighbor. Let whatever is his property be sacred from thy touch. Let no temptation allure thee, nor thy provocation excite thee to lift up thy hand to the hazard of his life. Defame him not in his character, bear no false witness against him. Corrupt not his servant to cheat or forsake him. And the wife of his bosom, O tempt not to sin. It will be a grief to his heart, which thou canst not relieve, an injury to his life, which no reparation can atone. In thy dealings with men, be impartial and just, and do unto them as thou wouldst they should do unto thee. Be faithful to thy trust. Remember we talked about trust earlier? Without trust, there is no growth. Be faithful to thy trust, and deceive not the man who relieth upon thee. Be assured it is less evil in the sight of Allah to steal than to betray. Islam? Oppress not the poor, and defraud not of his hire the laboring man. When thou sellest for gain, hear the whispering of conscience, and be satisfied with moderation. Nor from the ignorance of thy buyer take any advantage. Pay the debts which thou owest, for he who gave thee credit relieth upon thy honor. And to withhold from him his due is both mean and unjust. Finally, O son of society, examine thy heart, call to remembrance to thy aid, and if in any of these things thou hast transgressed, make a speedy reparation to the utmost of thy power. Islam? All right. So again, our noble lieutenant last Friday said, justice is the rewards of Allah. You get out what you put in. You reap what you sow. That is justice. But ultimately doing what is just, what is righteous, what is right. Another name for justice, or another name for Jesus, is justice. Because he was that thought of Allah that came down to be that righteous example, to be that just example. Why did that happen? Because love, truth, peace, and freedom was violated. So justice had to come down and run its course. Islam? Now, when we talk about this concept of the sword, we can talk about the sword of Damocles. And the sword of Damocles is very interesting because you have one of the servants of Damocles who was the king, I believe the king of Rome at that time. And one day when he was holding council, one of the councilmen had came up to Damocles and basically said that, you know, whatever he's doing is a cakewalk. It's nothing for him, you know. You should be doing things this way. You should be doing things that way. If I was king, if I was ruler, this is how it would go. Sound familiar? So Damocles was like, okay, you got it. So for one day, I will relieve all, you know, my privileges and all of the things that I'm able to do. I'm going to relieve them to you. And the next day, when this councilman showed up, he saw a throne. And right above that throne was a sword, or a scimitar, if you will, that was hanging by a thread of horsehair. It's dangling by a thread of horsehair. And the symbolism behind that is simply put the same laws and constitution that you think as a citizen, you hold rights to or hold the obligation to uphold, the same as I, as a magistrate. And that is the demonstration in chapter 28 and 29 of the Moorish Science, or the Quran, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Magistrate and subject, master and servant. Justice. So when we talk about justice, we're not just talking about something that is negative. Again, it's positive. It's positive as well. But again, it is the result. It is the result of your actions. It can be the result of your actions. It can be the consequences to your negligence. Or as the noble lieutenant said before, it can be the rewards of Allah. But we seek the rewards of Allah. And the only way that we can seek the rewards of Allah is that we acknowledge that all of these principles essentially come from Allah. That is why He is the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. That is the foundation, beginning with love. And with that foundation, you will receive justice. You will receive the reward from Allah. And this is, where our lieutenant came through when he was talking about what do these arcs represent? Within that make a quote unquote circle or a broken circle.
Sorry.
Love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Now, before y'all get to thinking, does anybody have any questions? Islam. And the part about it is I gave the answer. Twice. Twice. All right, family. So with that, again, as far as, this demonstration, I just wanted to reiterate it because it's very important that, again, we able to draw from the source, that we can comprehend it from the source and what it means and why profit. But ultimately, it goes back to love. Ultimately. So, with that, I leave as I came, spirit of peace and love.